All right, so I got this Grom from an auction, and I really don't know the history of this thing. I suspect that it's been stolen and run roughshod around the country. But despite that, it is a fairly low mileage bike with only about 3,000 something miles on it, so there's a very good chance that the engine is just fine on this. But I would like to know for sure, and to do that, I'm gonna do a compression test on this sucker.
I'm gonna get out my compression tester here.
All right, so my first step is remove spark plug wire. Let's see if we got the right, oh yes. Take the spark plug out. And to keep the bike from pumping fuel into the engine while you're trying to test the compression, you can disconnect the fuel injector by taking off the cover on the left side of the bike, and then you'll have access to the fuel injector, which is right here. Here's the intake manifold on the bike. The throttle body is back in here, and you've got the fuel injector is right here, and the electrical connection for the fuel injector is right here. So if we unplug this electrical connection, pressing this little tab on top here and then pulling up, this should come undone just like that. And now there's no longer a signal getting to the fuel injector, and it should no longer be able to shoot gas into the engine. Then if we take a look at this spark plug, we'll note that this is a very small spark plug. And our compression tester gauge, the threaded part here, which is going to be threaded into where the spark plug was in that hole there, this is not the right size. So we need a spark plug adapter to go on the end of this guy to make this compression tester work. Because my adapter is 14 millimeter and the spark plug is 10 millimeter. So then our spark plug hole here on the head on the engine, that's where we thread this guy in, just as if it were a spark plug. We just want to thread that in by hand, get it finger tight in there. We do not have to crank this down. It's got the little rubber O-ring on there which will seal it, and that will work just fine. Turn the bike on, and we want to open the throttle all the way. So twist this guy all the way here and sort of hold that while we simultaneously press the start button. Gets us to about 155. That's pretty damn good. The standard, according to the manual that we're looking for, is 160 psi. And so the fact that we're at 155, pretty happy with that. It says if compression is low, we could pour some engine oil into this cylinder through the spark plug hole and recheck the compression. Basically, is what that means. So let's try that just for fun. All right, and then I've got a little oil can here. I'm gonna use that to give a squirt or two into the cylinder. Now I will replace the compression tester back into the cylinder. All right, now let's see what we get now. Wow, that went up a lot, dude. All right, so that took it to like 180. Yeah, almost 180 that way. That is significantly different. I mean, it's not a brand new engine is what this is telling us. Is that it's not bad. It's a perfectly good engine. If we can get 150 on there, this engine's good. There's really no need to tear into this thing. Is there room for improvement? If we rebuilt the engine, would it be better? Yes, but the standard is 160, and we're just slightly off from that at 155. And so I'm good with this engine. Let's just enjoy it. You know, let's enjoy it. But we could get in here, tear this thing apart, if we were so motivated. So what the manual says is that if the compression increases from the previous value after adding oil to the cylinder, we should then check the cylinder and the pistons and the piston rings. Basically looking for a leaking head gasket, worn piston rings, or worn cylinder and piston. So that means replacing any of those three things would improve our compression and therefore our performance of this engine. However, if we were to do this test that we just did with the oil in there and it did not increase the compression, that means that the valves are leaking on the engine. You could have a bent valve, you could have a stuck valve, you could have just valves that are worn. In our case, we have a decent engine. It's not like brand new, but it's very good at 150 PSI. Generally, according to the internet, anything between 125 and 175 PSI, that's a good engine. And just run that thing. And so in this case, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna run it, we're gonna put it in our little chopper bobber thing that we're making, and we're gonna run it and enjoy this engine, and it's gonna be awesome. So that's it for this video. Hopefully it's helpful to you if you have a questionable situation going on with your Grom, and if you've got another engine that has more than one cylinder, there's also the metric to keep in mind that you want to have the PSI, the pressures between the two, the compression test between the two cylinders, or more, 4, 5, 6 cylinders, whatever you've got, the compression you want it to be within 10 PSI of each other. So if you've got 4 cylinders, you want them all to be within 10 PSI of each other. All right, so if you got one that's 150 PSI, you want the others to be within 10 PSI of that. So like you'd want all of those to be within sort of like 145 and 155. So hopefully this gives you the direction. Basically, if you've got an engine that is below 125 PSI, you should really rebuild that thing. And then if you've got, and a lot of times the engine will have a hard time running. You won't be able to keep the engine running if it's below 110 or 100 PSI. That is often the case, and it varies by engine. There's not a set rule for this, and that's why you often, when you look this stuff up, you often find ranges for PSIs on different engines and stuff like that, because it varies. It depends on the engine. There's a lot of engineering that goes into engines, and some of them are going to run better at different compressions. So keep on wrenching, everybody. Hope your engine checks out. We'll see you next time.